Hello, 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 and welcome to today's episode of Her Version. This podcast is dedicated to sharing stories of struggle to triumph, a platform that allows individuals to tell their truth in order to inspire and uplift others. For those of you that are new to this podcast and like content like this, make sure you hit that subscribe button. Make sure you follow, like, and share. I am your host, Sabrina Victoria. Let's jump right in. Sometimes I don't realize how loud my audio is, and then it's just blasting like I'm in a nightclub or something.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for joining us today for this episode of Her Version. I have Oksana with me today. The Her Version platform is built on storytelling and the understanding that many times our greatest learning experiences come from listening to other people's stories. Today, I have this amazing woman with me today. Oksana actually found herself at the age of 47 after being married to her soulmate for almost 2 decades, with a harsh reality of starting over as a single woman. She found herself alone, without a plan, no confidence, no certainty, and not knowing what to do next. Years later, she is now dedicated her life to helping ambitious women attract high-value men, capture their attention, and create amazing, soul-fulfilled relationships by becoming magnetic to their dreams and desires. We are excited to learn more about Oksana's journey and where all this confidence comes from. Welcome, lady.
Hello. I'm so happy to be here, Sabrina.
Yes. Thank you so much. I so appreciate you taking some time out of your day to hang out with me. I love everything you're doing, and I think it's just such a fun niche to be in.
It is fun, but I think it's very necessary, because I know so many women can relate to starting over. It's kind of such a common thing these days. You had your life, you had your love, right, with someone, and then it ends. And it's actually, for me, it was later in life, but it can happen at any stage, really, right? Starting over, it's not an easy task. With a broken heart, you still have to live your life. You have kids, you have job, you have obligations, you have other things, and you're literally bleeding on the inside, right? Especially if you're coming out of the long-term relationship. There is, children involved, there is career involved, there is other things. So, and continue moving forward, but also, learning again who you are, how you can walk this walk. And I know that I needed that support. And I know that I wouldn't be able to get where I am now without getting that support that I've gotten. I would have stuck there for decades, and maybe, never really created what I really created. And this is kind of part of what is my mission, to share that. That that the ending can be the ending, but it also can be the beginning of something new. And that's kind of what it was. Even though it feels so horrible when it is happening, it feels like, oh my gosh, feeling crushed.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Yeah, definitely. So I love to kind of just start out by just you sharing just a little bit about your journey, just so we have some context. And then I'd love to just kind of dive in a little bit more and see what you do.
Yeah, so my journey started, originally I'm from the Ukraine, Kiev, and I moved to Canada actually for love over 25 years ago, when I also was on search, for soulmate. And, the way it showed up, it was not the way I anticipated. And this is why I believe that our beliefs create our reality. Our thoughts and beliefs create our reality. And at that time, I had a certain set of beliefs, and and it showed up in a certain way. And I moved across the world for love, and I had a wonderful life with my now ex-husband, but with whom we were completely aligned for many, many years. And then we had businesses together. We traveled the world. We were raising blended family. And the thing is, here's another thing I wanted to mention about soulmates. It doesn't mean that they're perfect. They're not perfect, and they're not going to not never make a mistake, right? It doesn't mean that our life didn't have challenges. We had a ton of challenges. It just we were like going through life, getting support, providing support in a way that we needed. And it's actually part of what I teach now, how to actually provide support in the way that your partner can receive. Now, looking back in hindsight, so many things make sense, but at that time, a lot of things I had to learn kind of the hard way, like figuring it out along the way. And yeah, after 18 years where our marriage ended, we had, it's kind of, my story was a little bit, for me, it was, I had to grieve a lot of things because I never imagined that relationship not last, because we were so in line on so many levels. And then we had future planned. We had a place in Costa Rica. We were built in the process of, we lived kind of part-time for almost a decade in Costa Rica. We had a place, but then we were going to build a dream home, and we were going to retire early, and all of those things. And then everything kind of went kaboosh. And I had to figure out like what to do. How do I start over? Like, not only the future that I worked for my whole life was not going to be happening. I had to figure out a career because we were in the family business. So I had to, okay, what do I do? So I, and talking about with the bleeding heart, I went and got a job, figure out how to, what do I do from now on, and who do I want to be, right? This is the last thing I wanted to think about, what my career should be looking like. But for that time, I think it was best for me just to be in sort of a structure around people, because it's very easy to, when you're in a state of stress or trauma, right? Because it is emotional trauma, right? It's very easy to isolate and not show up and go into hermit mode, right? Yeah. And I literally forced myself that I needed to do that. And a lot of things that I was, action steps that I was taking, not because I wanted them. I felt like I needed to, first, it was part of the survival. To be in the circle of people, to be around people, rather than just go into depression and kind of hit the wall, right? Yeah. So and that's kind of where I started my journey, figuring out I knew I had a job. Then I started, but one thing got me through. Like, so many things have shifted. Everything was moving for me at that time. Like, everything that I knew, all my certainty was gone. You had to find a new place to live, and you go through all that rebirth within yourself, right? All the insecurities that you didn't even know you had when you were 18 or whatever, all of a sudden surfaces up, right? All this stuff, and it's like, who is this person, right? Especially if you've been in a relationship for a long time. Yeah, things get entangled so much because I knew myself as a mother, I knew myself as a wife, I knew myself as a business owner, I knew myself as a stepmom, as a daughter. We take care of our aging parents. Like, I mean, that's where I was immersed, right? And then all of a sudden, you're kind of, this is a huge task. It's kind of, this is where they awaken. And it's like, who am I? Yeah. Now, standing now, without all these labels, right? Yeah. Who am I as a human being? This is basically was the discovery, the journey that I, kind of put myself on. And, and some of it, I think it's divine, and some of it is circumstantial, right? But what do we do with the situations that happen to us makes all the difference, because we all have challenges in different ways, right? And we all have different levels of tolerance, of like stress tolerance, right? This is why maybe something for you is, this would be stressful. For me, that's not stressful at all. But this, that you don't think it's a big deal, would be like terrifying to me. So facing all these things, and I was facing a lot of things that I didn't even know I needed to be facing, and get into new environment, and then starting to moving and changing all these things. And the interesting part was that all that difficulty was difficult to move through that. And once I got somewhat established in my new paradigm that I was exploring, then I started dating. I was like, okay, well, maybe I just give that a try. Yeah. I my thoughts were, for a woman like myself, I consider myself a quality woman. I have a lot to, accomplished in my life. I had a lot of success and different, seen the world. And I thought that should be fairly easy.
Yeah.
Shouldn't be a problem at all.
Yeah.
Right? And I looked at a couple of apps. I was like, oh, wow, look at all this great gentlemen out there. That should be, okay, my next step, And what I have found was very far from what it appeared to be. The dating has completely shifted. I was so unprepared. It was quite shocking, actually. And I realized that it's not as seems that it's not as easy as it seems.
Yeah.
And it took me some time to figure that out, and a couple of heartbreaks, really, But the other thing I also learned about myself is learning to feel these emotions and what to do with them, because there's a lot of new emotions that surfaced that I was unfamiliar with, right? And very often we tend to, because we're stressed, we have busy lives, and it's not convenient to feel our emotions, because I can fall apart. I don't want to fall apart in the middle of something, right?
Yeah.
So we have this tendency, and we trained ourselves very well, especially ambitious, accomplished women, right, to push through, to get more, right, to do more, and just suppress a lot of things. And then we suppress them for a long period of time, just like I did, and in the past, and then all of a sudden they just kind of flat out, and there is no way of suppressing. Now you have to figure them out, now how to do it. So there is a lot of that was added, and I know, and I see that a lot of that too with my clients too, who are going through that starting over process, right? A lot new emotions, a lot new things that you don't even know how to handle, right? And a lot of new old trauma surfaces up, right? So yeah, going through that. But anyway, putting myself on the dating scene and all that stuff, after about a year and a half, I was completely almost, I don't want to say given up, because I don't give up. I was I realized that something is just not clicking. Something's just not working. There's huge disconnect happening. And I knew that there was something's missing. There's something missing. And interestingly enough, finding a life partner became more difficult than accomplishing a whole bunch of all other things that I've done in the past, the moving, finding a new job, and dealing with a whole bunch of other things, all that other mess that I was in.
Yeah.
Because at least at that I felt like I knew what to do. I needed to do, and I would, if I needed a job, I need to apply, I need to train for the interview, I need to present, I need to do something, right? Yeah. And it would eventually land me a job, to find a house we know how to do, to settle in, to find new friends, to find new community. With relationships, it's not like that, right? It's not like that. There's no control. There's no which I thought it felt like this part of my life is completely, I don't have a say almost, the way things are. But and then I started figuring that out. And one of the first books I read was Men Are From Mars and Women Are From Venus.
Did something happen? Was there a date that went wrong or something, or what triggered you to go? What happened?
You're right. Exactly. That absolutely something happened. After my second heartbreak, because I was like, oh, okay, well, date. And then, so then, I met somebody, I kind of fell in love, and that kind of didn't lead me anywhere. And I ended up with a heartbreak. And there were not long-term relationships, right? And at that time, I was in I was already in pain. And this was just an added stress and added pain that was that was felt even differently. That felt excruciating. And that's when I actually kind of took a step back, and I realized there is something I'm missing. There is something just not clicking. And I'm the common denominator. There is something I just don't know. Okay. There is other women, because I've saw examples. For somebody, it is working. What is it they're doing that I'm not doing? Because, I'm just as intelligent, just as successful, just as good looking, just as fit, just as all of those things. Why is it not working? And I looked at myself as because I've been doing personal development for a while, I know that we are always the source of our results that we create in our lives. So instead of pointing finger at them, the apps are wrong, the men are wrong, this one's wrong. It's like, what am I need to change? What do I need to know? And this is when I started Googling all these things, right? What to do and how to get answers. Like, I was looking for answers. That's where I actually started looking for answers. And as I started looking, like, you know how they say, when the student is ready, teachers show up. At that point, I was ready. And usually, which gets us there, it's the pain point that you're like, okay, I cannot go like that any longer. Yeah. So that was my pain point, where I said, I no longer want to experience this. I want to have more control. I want to have more control of my life. If I'm going to put my heart on the line, I want to know that it's not going to get smashed again and again and again. I don't want to be going through this hamster wheel of constant healing, of constantly feeling bad about myself, and constantly feeling, that I'm not enough for something. Mm-hmm. What do I need to do? And I started reading every book I could find, every, course I could take, and it was stacking up, right? I was in, then I started getting involved into, masterminds and, other courses, and reading and getting some, external help from coaches. And that's kind of it's all accumulated. So it took me some time to actually figure that out. And there was a point again, that something clicked, and I'm like, oh, I get it. Yeah. But it still took me probably a year and a half to actually put it in, actuality, to get it into actual reality, because, getting the results comes from our actions, right? So I need to, with my new beliefs, with my new insights, I had to show up a certain way, do certain things, even though it was scary. And I just want to say to everyone, it's, this imposter syndrome, whether it's in business or in dating, right? My first date, I remember I was going on a first date. I was terrified. I was so terrified. I was like, oh my gosh, are they going to like me? Are they going to do this? Are they going to do that? And like the first time, everything feels, because it's an unknown territory. There is no certainty. We just haven't developed that skill yet, right? Yeah. And the skills come with experience, right? Yeah. Just like everything, just like my very first Facebook Live, I was so scared to do. Yeah. So just like my first date. So for those women who are going through change, a heartbreak, right? Putting themselves out there, it is scary. Imposter syndrome, yeah, can be also awful, 100%. Yeah. But the thing is, this is another thing, like this is my new, kind of finding that I discovered recently. The imposter syndrome is there for a reason. It's not because there's something wrong with you, just the area of, you just haven't developed enough area of expertise there. And the reason you don't have it yet, because you just don't have enough experience in that. See, the confidence doesn't come from a place of, poof, I just woke up one day all confident. It just doesn't happen like that. Confidence comes, and certainty comes from the experience, right? From doing things. I'll tell you one thing with my dating. My first date was, I was scared. I remember my first date. I don't remember a bunch of others, but the first day I was driving, so it was anxiety, it was a knot in my stomach, worrying about things, what I'm going to say, what I'm going to do, what if he said, because you don't know what to expect even, right? Yeah. I haven't been on a date in 2 decades. Hello, it's kind of scary, right? Yeah. But then, how I approached that. The first year and a half, I was dating a lot. See, a lot of women, they just go on a date or 2 or 3, and then they give up after that. Yeah. They stop keep going, or like with business too, right? People just give up. It's like, oh yeah, it just doesn't work. Oh, the apps doesn't work, or online dating doesn't work, or this doesn't work. No, everything works if you make it work. You need to have strategies. You need to have skills. You need to have experience. And I didn't have it at that time, right? And but then I started dating a lot. Like I started coming more and more dates. I'm putting myself out there, try this up, that up. And I went on a lot of dates. a part of it was me coping with my loneliness at that time and transition. And, I kind of didn't have a lot of friends, like single girlfriends, because everything was attached to, the family lifestyle. To be honest with you, the only kind of certain thing for me was my personal development community, because I was involved in Landmark International. I don't know if you're familiar with that.
I did that. I did Landmark. Yeah.
Yeah. So that community where I was getting support and through the coaches and, the people, and I was involved in a lot of things, which was, I so needed. And this is like one of the things I advise everyone: don't go through your struggles alone. There's so much help and support available. And people really want to help you when you're, where you're not in a good place. So, but that was where my only, non-changeable, right? That was my personal development. And my mindset was keep getting me through that. I could not accomplish, and I don't know about you, Sabrina, like, I wouldn't be where I'm at have I not done my personal development. And I'm still doing it. Like, I'm always involved, because it's so easy to get down on yourself and see yourself as not perfect or not worthy of this or that, and literally sabotage your potential outcomes. Because I could, after a couple of times, because I felt so uncomfortable going on days, I could say, no, this is not for me. But I kept going, and I've gotten to the place that I've gotten so comfortable with that I knew exactly. I knew, like, I learned my patterns, I learned people's patterns. Like, it gave me that this is where the certainty comes from. This is where the confidence comes from. To my 100th date, I went there with ease. I had to change an intention. I had to, I had to apply different things, because, kind of long story short, that part of my life was burning me out, right? I was creating a beautiful life for myself, but the date and was still feeling dreadful, right?
Yeah.
So when I changed mindset around that, when I put intention there for my whole life to be fun and easy, and I started showing up like that. This is why our beliefs create our reality. Because I had this conversation with one of my clients this last week about, beliefs, right? Because we were working on her beliefs, what she believes about herself, why is this not happening for her? And it's like, I'm just looking at that, what she wrote there. Like, my belief is completely the opposite about myself, right? About how I show up in relationships, or what I expect from men, right? Like those kind of things, right? And I say, my belief is completely the opposite. She said, and it's not just the magic of what I believe. My belief make me show up in a correlation with my beliefs, right? We always show up exactly what we believe about ourselves, right?
Yeah, definitely.
So this is why I don't get stuck in the, like bad relationships, because it's just not part of what I believe in. It gets pinpointed. It's very easy for me to draw a boundary, because I've developed enough confidence in myself. I know what my expectations are. I have intention. I have a vision, right? So it makes things so much clearer. And working on our beliefs is a number one priority if we want to feel confident and successful, right? So and after a number of dates, many dates, I've developed that confidence. Going on a date was a walk in a park, and my intention became, I'm going to have fun with my dating. And when I shifted my energy, all men fell in love with me. All men, like, this is why I think now looking back in hindsight and going through the struggles that I went through, and I say, it's so easy, really, to stand out. It's so easy to attract a good quality person if you show up as quality, right? If you, instead of hiding, you are highlighting your greatness. If you show up with a great attitude, if you see good in people, if you see, life as, everything, a glass half full rather than half empty, right? And this is how as I was shifting my mindset around a lot of things, I shifted my mindset about dating. And I also want to say, mindset is one thing, strategy is another thing, just like in everything, because you can burn, and this is how it happened for me, you can burn yourself out. I dated like that without a strategy, wanted it to happen naturally, just like we all do. And sometimes it does happen naturally. Mm-hmm. You can meet somebody in a park, you can meet somebody in an elevator, you can meet somebody in a grocery store, of course.
Yeah.
To increase our odds to increase our odds, we need to show up with intention, right? We need to have a strategy, right? If you put yourself out there, you don't want to go for a year and a half or 5 years or whatever, just, staying on the up, because that's a lot of people this is where people meet these days. Majority, 90, probably over 90% people meet.
I love that you're saying
online.
this because I loved the dating apps.
Yeah.
But I'm in a lot of groups, single mom groups, single groups on Facebook, abuse groups.
Yeah.
And anytime anybody brings up the app of any sort, so many women jump on and say, it's awful, it's horrible, it's the worst. And I always jump in and to whoever's posting, whoever's asking. And I always say, don't give up, girl. I freaking loved the apps.
Yeah.
And I had guys lie to me, and I had guys say that they were taller than they were, had more hair than they were thinner than they actually were. But like, I say exactly what you said. I showed up with the intention of having fun, having a good time, no expectation. And instead of sitting in the lull of, oh, they did this wrong and they did this is not, and la, la, la. I just ignored all of that. And I just had the best time. So much so that I probably went on maybe 12 app dates. I met a guy. We hung out for about 6 weeks and it didn't pan out, which was fine. I was very upset, but whatever. But I went right back on and set up some more dates. And I wound up meeting my fiance, who I've now known for 4 years. But I internally sometimes, I don't know if I've said this to him or not, and he might even be listening, but I sometimes am like, I was having so much fun that I just could have kept doing that for like a little bit longer.
Because see, this is the shift of the energy I was talking about. As soon as you shift your energy, people notice that. I started, my commitment was because, and again, I came there because out of pain, because the part of my dating, like, my life was shaping up really, really nice, but the dating was feeling miserable. Yeah. Because I was attached to the outcome. I was, feeling bad about myself. Had all these expectations, right? When I committed to just have fun, I started having fun. Yeah. For me, if I would go on a date, it was no longer up to him to impress me. I was bringing fun, and I was taken away with me too. Yeah. I was like, I knew I was going to enjoy my date because I'm going to be there and I'm going to make sure it's going to be a fun date, right? Yes, yes. And the other shift I made, and I think that's a big one too, because I feel like this humanness has been taken out of this online dating. My intention is not to figure out, if he's the one, does he like me, or all of those things, right? Or what kind of job he has, or where does he live? Everybody's so bored with that, right? But my intention, I put it to be, get to know him as a human being. Just see a human in him, and connect to that person that is sitting, in front of me, because he's just like myself. Took time out of his day to take me out for dinner or lunch or whatever that is, right? To get to know me. So instead of sitting there and judging and prejudging him, I was connecting to him on the human level. And our conversation has shifted. All this time, I wasn't talking about how many children do you want to have, or where do you want to retire, or all of that boring stuff that does not create attraction whatsoever, right? I started talking about things that I'm passionate about, the life that I lived. And at that time, I was involved in, I just got into, one of the network marketing things because it was just fun. Like they were talking about epigenetics and, changing your, genes and getting all this vitality and all of those things. And I was because I needed that. So I got it for myself. I needed vitality. I needed to go through that rebirth. And I was just learning all these things. And I started, getting involved with, Joe Dispenza's things, becoming supernatural and all that stuff. And learning the things. I just started talking about things that were really excited me. And when I was talking about that, I light up, I would lit up, right? And because I would lit up, they wouldn't feel scared or something. They were interested. They were like, oh, they would jaw drop, right? First of all, they were all buying my stuff from me. Not that I was selling, but because I was in love with that, I was sharing myself with, right? 100%. And they all thought, that, I was very interested in, because I wasn't talking about boring stuff anymore.
Definitely.
So that's how energy can change, right? And there is energy. There's two things that I teach too. By the way, you mentioned about like the online dating. I see these things all the time too. I have this incredible course coming, I'm launching, that is going to set you up for the online, like a pro. Because see, with online, there's plenty of fish in the sea, but the reality is only 5% of online daters that are really successful, that are getting cream de la cream, pick of the litter, and everything else, men and women. So how do you, the goal is to get to be one of the 5% and to attract the other one, and to make that connection instead of complaining about this, instead of, by complaining, we're not going to change reality. Mm-hmm. By learning how to position yourself, by learning how to communicate, by learning how to scan, screen your matches, right? How to define all your dates? Yeah, on the apps. By the way, which app is better? People always ask, oh, which app? Which app should I go on? It doesn't matter.
It doesn't.
If you show up, for those of you who are looking to get positioned, whether you're starting over or been dating forever without success, my course, Reach Out Somehow, it will be very, very affordable, and it will be mind-blowing, because we add the strategy. Like, it's one thing to just go there and be all natural. And my question is, how's it working for you? Not very good for a lot of people. Didn't work for me. For a year and a half, I was burning myself out with this, part-time job, dreadful part-time job of dating that didn't pay off. Was providing draining. So when I shifted, when I learned a few strategies, when I applied, that's where things started to shift. So, and which day, people think that, oh, I just need to find that special app that that has been hidden from me all these years and to go on there. And the reality is, it's not. There is plenty of people wherever you live, unless you live in like a town with like, I don't know, 100 people and half of them are your relatives. That's probably not a good place to like. But you don't need to move. You don't need to go anywhere. If your city is decent size, there's plenty of people. You need to show up.
Yeah.
You need to show up. You need to position. A lot of people just waste the up real estate, I call it, right? On something. And here's the thing. Here's about intention. If you say finding a life partner is important to you, then act like one. Like act like it is important. Invest into it. Invest into the knowledge. Invest into understanding. Invest into help. The reason it worked for me, here's the one thing I want to say. The reason it worked for me, not just because it's some sort of miracle, because I showed up for it. I got into everything. I bought every course that I could get. I hired the coach because that was important to me. And I showed up in correlation with my intention, right? Mm-hmm. Yeah. I didn't just meditate a guy into my living room or on the front door, although I did a lot of meditations and I did a lot of energy work and I did a lot of visualizations and all of those things. And I teach those, manifesting, things into our world, right? But the strategy is important. Otherwise, you can spend a lot of time on burning yourself out. So the app that actually where I met my partner, we've been together, we just celebrated 5 years together. Do you want to take a guess, Sabrina, where I met?
Am I picking from an app?
Yeah.
Bumble.
No.
Match.com.
No, I actually didn't have much traction on any of those. I never went on Bumble. I just, because I prefer
Harmony?
No, I find that one was very boring too.
Tinder.
Bingo!
Are you serious?
I am so serious. And this is why I believe that it doesn't matter. And I know, not only that I know many other women, quality, successful, wonderful women who met terrific men. We're talking top notch, the 5% on Tinder. This is why it doesn't matter where you show up, how you position yourself, how you carry. Like psychology is important, strategy is important, energy is important, all of those things.
Yeah.
So yeah, out of all apps, it's funny story with Tinder too, because like I did not know like what's Tinder. It's like just another app, right? I thought at that time when I kind of, and it was easy to create profile by click and right, and then eventually I was there for I don't know, for a little while, and then I kind of Googled it and it showed up and it says Tinder, a hookup app. I'm like, oh my God, this is a hookup? I didn't even know. Like, I didn't even had that perception, you know what I mean? Until like later, like really, it's how you position yourself. That's all that matters. How you set your boundary. That's all that matters.
Yeah.
Men know how to respond. Men know how to test, right? And be prepared for that. Right. And that's when the confidence comes in. That's where you really need to start really getting yourself rooted into your core beliefs, right? Getting so connected to your own certainty about who you are. What is your baseline? What do you tolerate? What you don't tolerate? And you show up like that. And you don't need, because often women, when I talk to, they would say, they have difficulties to set boundaries. And they think that they need to yell or kind of show up a certain way to set a boundary. And the thing is, you really don't. I set my boundaries with smile. And I back it up with actions, because, it's not just what you say, it's what you do that people pay attention to, right? So it's very important. And it's the same way we judge men too. It's not only just what he says, but what he says, does it match to his actions, right? So we always need to pay attention to that. So, but yeah, interesting that you can find things anywhere if you know how to position you. If you know, like I'm gonna say with confidence and with certainty that to have success, you need in online dating these days, you need to have a level of sophistication of knowing how like you see, everything works if you know how to make it work. Just like we were talking, you and I before our live stream, and how do you work this StreamYard? Yeah. Terrific software, right? I've never used it. I'm like, oh my gosh, I don't know how to do it. And you're like a pro in that, right? Because you've done it so many times. I'll be like poking around, figuring it out, right? It would take me all day to set it up. To you, just like that. So we developed that by doing things. Don't wait for confidence to come to you. That imposter syndrome, this, something didn't work. Ask yourself, why didn't it work? What can I do differently? But I always like to look at things, it's not just something didn't work. Everything is in life is a lesson, right? If we choose to see that way. Otherwise, we're going to continue learning that lesson until it hits us really hard in the face. That's how we get our lessons. But if we look at things that happen to us, right? And it could be a narcissistic relation, an abusive relation, could be, could be terrible relationship with your parents, right? Could be anything, a boss. Like, what can it, or a relationship, romantic relationship, right? What can I learn from that, right? What can I learn from that? All these challenges are really, and I look at it from a spiritual perspective too. Those are the gifts. We can take a look at them. This is the gift that I can choose to see this way, that an opportunity for me to grow, an opportunity for me to learn about myself. I have a client, and when we started working with her, she was constantly referring to herself as a codependent. She was codependent. She grew up in a household with alcoholic parents and codependency and all kind of mess. And then she had terrible relationships, like a series of relationships where she did not, she wasn't treated very well, right? And you can spend many years figuring that out, why and what, or you can just, you can figure out a few things and get them out of the way, and really unsubscribe from that mentality and really learn from what was that teaching me? What was I? You see, people usually take a stand of a victim, right? It was done to me. And that is a very hard and long process to work through, right? But if I would look at it from the perspective that, as my life is happening for me, universe is doing, given me lessons, because I also believe that I have chosen these lessons to grow, right? As a, you know, my soul was created this lifetime. So what can I learn from that, right? Which was with the expansion, what did I tolerate that I no longer willing to tolerate, right? So when you take the power back by assuming your responsibility of that, I allowed them to treat me this way. Like, for instance, for me, when I was going through my divorce, I did not have much certainty or confidence at that time. Everything was a strip to the, and I got a job, and you know, downtown, some, you know, whatever corporation, and I had a mean boss. Guess what? They show up for you, right? And at that time, I was so intimidated. I was so not myself. I was so trying to fit in. I was so uncertain about who I am at that transition. And, you know, and I allowed them to treat me that way, right? I allowed that. Now that would never happen, ever happen, right? It's because if that boss has changed, they probably still, you know, treating poorly, you know, whomever they're treating there, right? And they probably don't even think it's poorly, because it's just how we treat people here, right? Around here. So, but for me, you know, like, I would never put myself into that, or I would, you know, I would set the boundary in a way that they would not be able to, you know, treat me that way or talk to me that way. And that same thing goes to every relationship, right? But relationship or situation in life, right? When we go back and look at every situation that we don't, we feel like was a challenge, right? And we can look at it, including dating, including relationships, right? You know, what worked, what didn't work, and what can I do differently next time, right? Because there is always a lesson in everything. If we choose to see one, there is a gift in everything. Because it's something you've been stuck maybe in this groundhog of you know, men treating me poorly. The apps are not working, or the online dating, you know, terrible, right? If you can get stuck in that, that's what's going to show up. Okay, I went on this date. Okay, which worked? I went on a date, right? Or whatever, I put myself out there, right? Or whatever the situation was. What didn't work? We didn't click, or you know, it was too far to drive, or maybe he should come closer, or maybe he should buy flowers, or whatever. You said to yourself, which can I do differently? Well, maybe next time I'll ask. Maybe next time I'll let him know. Like, you shift that. Like, but what I find, a lot of people, they just don't have clarity. They don't even know what they want. Mm-hmm. They don't know, like, as much as, you know, I know what women would have lists and lists and lists of who he should be, right? But they don't know how to pull it in, how to pull him in, right? You need to have which kind of woman would attract this person? That's what we need to focus on, right? And start from there. So how would I communicate that? How would I ask for this? How would I do this? And those kind of things. So yeah, so that's interesting. But I wanted to mention, like, that when I just got on that into the dating, when I started my realization of pain, and I got myself Kindle, and I downloaded every, like, you know, from Amazon, like, all the books. And one of the first books was Men Are From Mars and Women Are From Venus. And that was written by John Gray. I don't, you know, he sold over 50 million copies around the globe. And so many relationships really, you know, or saved, and I don't want to say survived, but like really thrived based on just some basic things that he was talking about a couple of decades ago. So that was one of the, and not a lot changed, I want to say. The fundamentals haven't changed. The whole bunch of social constructs have changed, and, you know, the way we meet and all that stuff. But we forgot about those things. And this is why there is so many things are not working for a lot of people. But what I want to say that, how you're talking about confidence and talking about how reality can change. Now, this year, I'm co-writing a book. It's getting published this year with John Gray, whose book that I purchased the first when I was just like, what to do? I don't know. Nothing's working for me, right? That is a whole other kind of flip of this wheel, right? In tarot cards, they call it, like that kind of wheel, when the whole reality can completely turn the other way, right? All of a sudden here and now I am helping with my breakthroughs that I've learned, that I've, had to go, and learn a lot of lessons the hard way now, so that they don't have to. So that you don't have to go through all this heartbreaks. You don't have to be stuck on the app and burn yourself out and tolerate poor behavior. How do you set those boundaries? How do you show up? What do you tolerate? What you don't tolerate? How do you gain that confidence, right? Man will feel you're confident. Man will treat you the way you feel you deserve to be treated. And this is the problem that a lot of women don't recognize, As soon as you raise your bar, as soon as you raise the expectations for yourself, what you tolerate, and I call it a baseline. What is your baseline? What are you willing to tolerate? Or this is where we start, because sometimes I put a post, because I live in my, obviously, the way I perceive world and relationships. And they are in the realm of amazing. Amazing, fulfilling, happy, supportive, and that kind of stuff. And that's what I help to create, right? I don't spend a lot of time in what I don't want, because what we focus on, we tend to manifest, right? And, things arise, we work through them. So when I post something positive, maybe, or not positive, just from my perspective, gets some response, and then somebody would come and project their view of the world. Oh, this narcissist, or oh, this and this and that. And it's hard for me even to put those two realities, because we see the world through the lenses of our experiences, right? From what we went through, right? And but what I would recommend, because I also had number of clients who they didn't have a lot of good role models, because we tend to mimic relationships that we've been exposed to as children, right? Or what's been around. And a lot of people didn't have a lot of good role models. And now for this time that we're living, I know a lot of women complaining that men are not committed, not connected. They don't have a lot of role models, because most families they don't have a father figure, right? They don't have a father figure. That's a huge crisis for our society, right? Where the father figure, where father treats their mommy well, right? This is for something for our boys to learn to grow up to. So this is kind of a cycle that we're running. So, and and for some, so my advice would be, find those women or relationships for whom it is working, who are in terrific relationships that you did not have exposure before, because we often tend to be judge, or oh, what she's got or whatever. Use that as the beacon for you that this is possible and available. Things are working for online dating. Look, for you and I, it did work. For many other, I can use tons of examples for whom it does work, right? So use that as a proof for your brain, because your brain is looking for the proof to create it to your reality. So start surrounding yourself, put yourself in proximity with those, instead of being triggered that your world is not like that. That is how you're going to start shifting your reality, by seeing others. Oh, look at that. It works for you. And then start challenging your brain. So well, if it does work for her, why shouldn't it work for me? There is a possibility that it also can work for me. All you need to do is now figure out, what is she doing? How is she doing it? What is that she's doing or not doing? There is another thing, because you might be tolerating too much in your life. You might be allowing too much. You might be a people pleaser, right? Yeah. So maybe you should be pulling back a little bit. But all of a sudden, you have to start learning how to set boundaries. That's uncomfortable, because a lot of people are not going to like it, and a lot of them going to leave, and probably it's a good thing, right? But we need to be prepared for that shift.
100%.
Yeah.
Definitely. When did you get into self-development?
Is
that during your marriage?
No, before my marriage, actually, a few years prior to that, I had so many, now looking back, I had so many problems in my head, but I thought I didn't have any, right? I just didn't think I had any. There was constant stress, constant anxiety, constant, oh my gosh, trying to get somewhere, constant overwhelm, trying to run all of these things that most women run in these days, right? The household, the blended families, the businesses, the parents, the yourself, I don't know, all of that, right? And I did not have anything else. Like I used the tools that I had. And then one of my friends, I was seeing her, she was a hypnotherapist. I went there for something, I can't remember what that was. And she was keep telling me about this landmark, because every time I would share with her all these problems, she was like, you should go there. I'm like, no, I do need it. It's for those people who have problems. I don't have problems. I just have like things, right? So it took her about a year to convince me to come to that free event or something.
Yeah.
And then I came, and it was, I can't remember, a few hours, 2 or 3 hours.
Yeah,
and
they invite you, right?
And then I went through this process, and I remember driving home. I was like, oh my gosh, I don't know what happened. I couldn't explain. It was a whole new thing for me from all that kind of crazy rattle that was going on in my head. Now looking back, it was just like the capacity to think was very little, because it was all stress. There was so much stress at that time.
Mm-hmm.
But we're used to that stress, because that becomes a new norm, right? Yeah. And then it still took me some time. And I used to have the fear of public speaking, fear of public speaking. That was one of my big things. And it's not until she told me about public speaking, that it can help me with public speaking, that I started actually considering that, because I didn't think I had problems. And so I went there to, and if you've been to Landmark Forum, that's nothing to do with public speaking. Yeah. However, it can help you a lot with public speaking, because it's all in your beliefs and everything else. So I am there, getting ready to learn about public speaking, and there is nothing there about public, but it's all about you and who you are and how you show up and your beliefs and all that stuff, and your righteousness and your emotions and all of that stuff. And it's literally rocked my world. That 3-day thing, that woman, I am, till this day, I'm so grateful. 3 days had rocked my entire world. Yeah. My life was never the same after that. And after that, I got thirsty. It's like floodgates had opened. Like, oh my gosh, all these answers are, there, are all there. And I've been struggling, thinking, oh my gosh, everything. See, up until I started doing personal development. And you asked me when. It was, could have been probably like 10 or 12 or 14 years ago. So over a decade, I would say. So my world has completely changed from that point on. Like, it was, I could not get enough, and I still can't. There's always the next level of expanding consciousness. This is what it's all about. Then I got into, and I was always involved with quantum physics and learning all that mysterious stuff, all this consciousness. And now we're in all this awakening. And by the way, I didn't mention in the beginning, because I was born into, a country where, we were not allowed to believe in God or anything else besides the government. And I didn't have the grounding for most of the years, most of my life. So going through my divorce, it's actually, the pain connected me to my higher self, I realized that I was never disconnected. And that's when I read the first book about the energy, the Celestial prophecy, and that's kind of like, it was a whole new round that I was exploring. So that was on top of the personal development. Now I kind of walk with those two kind of feet, the mindset and the energy, right? Because the mindset, the actions, the strategy are very necessary, but the energy it makes all the difference, really, because you can do and you probably can tell that too, like even in business or relationship, might be doing all the right things, taking all the right steps, and for this person is happening, for this person is not happening. Your energy has a lot to do with that, right? Yeah. How you show up.
Definitely, 100%. What's the number one lesson you've learned from life?
Oh, number one lesson from life. That our beliefs create our reality. It's literally, if I would just summarize that, it may sound vague, and it may sound woo-woo even.
Mm.
But if you think about it, our world shows up exactly the way we see it. And that's exactly how it showed up for me before even personal development, just like we discussed, right? It showed up for me a certain way. It was hard. The whole world was hard. Everything was a struggle, right? And now my belief is I can create anything. Anything is possible to me as long as I put my mind to it. If I choose to put intention into it, put my focus into it, if I find resources, I showed up for that, I can create anything. This is how we manifest in this paradigm, right? First, you need to have a vision, because a lot of people don't have a vision. The reason a lot of people don't accomplish, don't create, don't find relationships that they want, don't have businesses they want, because they don't have a vision. It's all kind of clutter-ish, right? But first, we give it existence. You need to give it existence, right? You need to create clarity around that. And then once you know what you want, you create that vision and quantum. Then the second part to that is how can I manifest that? This is what I want. How can I manifest it? What do I need? What tools do I need? What knowledge do I need? What support do I need? What apps do I need to be on? What courses do I need to take? How do I learn how to set boundaries, or, which skills do I need to learn, right? And there is a learning curve there, just like with anything. You need to put yourself out there. You need to be willing to feel uncomfortable. You need to be willing to feel uncomfortable and know that that's growth. When you're uncomfortable, you're just going to be stuck in your comfort zone. And that's a comfortable yet very, that's not where happiness is. Like it's just more of a plateau, right? Most people rest at their plateau because it's too scary, because there is uncertainty, there's no confidence. There's no confidence it's gonna work, right? But there's confidence that it's probably not gonna work where you're there, right? There is no confidence that it might work, but there is certainty that it doesn't work, right? And sometimes we sell out for the certainty of misery to protect ourselves from uncertainty of the challenges. What if I put myself out there? What if he'll break my heart again?
Yeah.
And a lot of women are so scared of that. But the reality, if you look at your life, like even Sabrina or my life, and many, listeners who are listening too, look at what you have already gone through. That is a lot scarier than putting yourself out there,
Yeah.
And that only made us stronger and more wiser and more resourceful.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah. So
100%. So I'd like to know, we've got people listen here live. Thank you, by the way, for being here and hanging out with the Her Version community and Oksana today and her story. I'd like to get a rundown of the name of your company, what you do exactly, how do people find you, if they resonate with what you were saying this whole time.
Yeah, absolutely. So my name is obviously Oksana Irwin. I'm Mars Venus life and relationship coach. Mars Venus is basically I studied and still am, from many different mentors, but one of my main mentors is John Gray. And the name of my company is A Magnetic Woman. And by magnetic, we make it come to us. This is exactly kind of summarize the things that I was talking about. We do use strategy and we do use energy to create that, because I truly believe that's the power that we have that we did not know we had. And the way to find me, I would invite people to connect with me on Facebook. I don't know if you put the link tree. You can find me on Instagram, and there is a link tree. You can, for those who, by the way, who would be maybe even inspired to take actions, because here's the thing: you can be inspired, or you can be motivated. Inspiration wears out really quickly. Oh, I should do that. Then it kind of goes away and you get on with your routine, nothing changes. But when you're motivated, you take actions. So for those people who want to take actions, I offer a free complimentary clarity session to help you to create that vision. What do you want, right? What do you want? Where do you want to go from where you at, to get your clarity, who you are, where you at, whatever you're starting. You might be, your story might be different than mine. You might be dating for a while and you haven't gotten any traction, right? Or you've been through one relationship to another, and for some reason men don't commit, men don't do this or do that, right? And all of those things. So that's one way to get in touch with me. And the second thing is that I will be I'm doing a monthly course, a free course that is based on one of the John Gray's book, Why Mars and Venus Collide, because it's one thing is to find, so there's two parts to create a terrific relationship, is to find the right person, find the life partner, and second one is to keep them, because a lot of people have already met potentially great matches, already been in a relationship, things started off really, really well, and then somehow, boom, 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 something didn't work out, and after a few months or even a couple of years, things just fell apart, right? Yeah. So this course really teaches you, and this is a free course, it teaches you how to understand our differences, which we call gender intelligence, right? How to understand that I, as a woman, have completely different needs than than him as a man. And I need completely different support in a relationship, especially when I'm stressed out, because that's where most of our problems come from, because we're just so overwhelmed in the world that we live right now with so many things we're juggling, right? Because we don't live in a vacuum, right? We have so many things going on, right? If I show up a certain way, I need a certain support to how our partners respond to that. So anyway, I teach that, and it's terrific. That's actually what took my relationship, which was potentially a good relationship, to a place of amazing, and it's getting deeper. And because I practiced this workshop when I was working at it with my partner, he get to learn about that too. So he totally gets it. We even speak that language. The things that I used to misinterpret, I get so upset and I would go cry because he didn't do this and that, right? Now it's like, oh my gosh, I get it, and he gets it, and he knows how to what I need, and I know what he needs. I don't create this extra drama, which was most relationships struggle with things that people just don't understand about each other, how to be supportive, how to be helpful, right? And how to find your own support too. So that, and for those who are dating, I will be launching a terrific course for how to actually get traction and get results fast, because that is what we're ultimately looking for. Nobody wants to get stuck on that app forever. And you can get successful and find a terrific partner on Tinder, and I'm a proof for that. So there you go.
There you go.
By the way, which app did you meet your partner on?
Plenty of Fish.
Oh, there you go. So this is another low quality app. Yeah. There you go. I also had a lot of traction there too.
Yeah, mine, I got on just as a joke. My girlfriend and I she lives in Chicago, I live in Florida, and we were just on the phone kind of joking about being single. We're like, what about these dating apps? And I'm like, I don't know. And she was like, I don't know. And we were like, well, let's just do it. Let's just do it together. Yeah. Help each other pick pictures and write a bio. Yeah. So we did it just one night, maybe 2 hours of just laughing and going back and forth. And then in the morning I woke up, and you know how it is. There's 132 messages.
Hundreds of messages, and 99% of them are not quality. What do you do now?
So I was just feeling like hot shit. I was like, oh my gosh, I'm the most beautiful girl on the planet. Yes. This is amazing.
Yes. You're in demand. Look at all this man wants you. Yeah. And here's another thing, and I teach women too, flip that, because women get offended with, they was asking for sex. My attitude now, look at all this men. They all want to have sex.
Totally.
With me. And I'm the one who's going to decide which one is the, So totally. It's, having fun with that. It's such a big difference. Yeah. So yeah, you got all these messages, and then you had to deal with that.
Yeah. And I loved it. I loved the whole experience of it. I didn't have any even the guys who normal people would have been like, oh my God, this is gross, or I can't believe, I just laugh. Like it was just funny to me, you know.
Yeah,
I found so much joy in it. And like how grateful that we're in a era where we can do this,
I know,
you
right?
know,
Yeah.
like from your bed. You can be like just
I
pick.
know, I would have many conversation good. So the interesting thing too, now you're talking about that. So my partner that I'm with,
Yeah.
I literally worked half a block away from where he lived for like 3 years or something like that. And we went to similar places because there's only so many restaurants around that kind of area. So and we were frequenting there. We never crossed paths
Wow. See?
until like, what? Really? You live there? This is where we go for drinks with, at lunch or whatever, or company events and stuff
Yeah.
like that.
Wow.
Yeah, so that's that, like, yeah, universe has its own ways
Yeah. Yeah.
but you need to help it. You need to help it to co-create. You need to create. You need to show up. You need to show up for yourself, right?
Yeah.
So if those who are wanting to have a relationship, really wanting,
Yeah.
show up for it. Show up
Yeah.
for it. Don't just meditate on it, because I know like one woman reached out to me and she said, I really want to have a boyfriend or a husband, but I really want to date, and I haven't been on a date in a decade. I said, well, step on. We need to kind of we need to be realistic there, right? It's kind of like, I want to have $1 million business, but I really don't want to do anything for it. That is just not going to happen.
Yeah.
That is just not going to happen. We need some skills. We need some tools. We need to show up and deliver some sort of value to the world in exchange for
Yeah.
for the payment, right? So
Yeah.
it's the same with this. We need to show up. We need to position, but we need to know what we do. Like, the part that is, you can spin your wheels for a long time, and I know a lot of women, and men, date and indefinitely, or you can just really collapse time with that when you get intentional and you commit to wherever
Yeah.
your intentions are.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
Well, this has been great. I appreciate you being here and sharing some of your knowledge with us. For those of you that are watching live, or those of you that are watching on the replay, make sure you hashtag replay so we know where you were watching us at. But Oksana, her URL is in the description of whatever video, wherever you're watching us, just check the description. And then Oksana, if you can put the free thing that you were talking about and whatever other links just in the comments so people can click it.
Yeah, I'll add that.
Connect with you if they want to. This was great. Thank you so much for those of you that are still hanging on live, and thank you for those of you that watch on the replay. This has been Her Version podcast. This community is expanding every single day, and it's filled with females who are striving to do better than they did yesterday. For those of you that are new to this podcast and like content like this, make sure you hit that subscribe button. Make sure you follow, like, and share. If you have an amazing story to share with some inspiring thoughts, make sure you reach out to me here or at herversion.life. I am your host, Sabrina Victoria, and I'm so grateful to be here sharing a platform that allows people to share their truth and inspire others. As always,